Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's show. We got a great show for you tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about Gen Z and we're going to talk about affordability in the Midwest. So I think it'll be pretty insightful and uh, we'll get things off. If you can hear me okay in the chat, let me know. And then if you don't mind typing in where you're calling from or where you're stationed at. So let me know if you can hear me okay in the chat, and we'll get started with tonight's program. So we'll start with that, and we'll get into the first article. Okay, and all right, we got Clark is in the house. All right, Clark. Hey, thanks for stopping by, buddy. I really appreciate it. And Clark can hear me. Okay, terrific. I got a new mic, so hopefully you hear me a little bit better. So I upgraded from the uh, headset, so I got a new mic, but I wear the headphones that way I don't get that echo sound. So anyway, hey, appreciate you, Clark, stopping by and everything. So we're gonna jump into and we got Troy Beard. I hear you fine watching from San Diego. Okay, interesting, Troy, and thanks for coming on board. And we have Ben. Ben is in the house, so welcome, Ben. Ben has a channel as well, Relocate to Omaha. So uh, a lot of my drone footage is courtesy of Ben. He does a great job with the drone work. So Ben, thank you for that. So all right, and he says looking forward to this one. Okay, excellent. And Ben has you know been around the country and that sort of thing, so he can provide some insight. And sometimes when you're not from an area, you tend to appreciate it a little bit. And then the fact that I get the opportunity to work with folks that are relocating to Omaha makes me really appreciate Omaha, especially when I hear about some of the other areas and some of the stuff that's going on and just how unaffordable it is. So this article kind of talks about the how Gen Z is flocking to the Midwest, and that Omaha has one of the highest under 35 home ownership rates in the country. So I think that's something we can be proud of from the Midwest standpoint. And I think things are only looking up in terms of what our city has to offer. And now that we're over the metro area is over a 1 million, I think that's a lot of good things going for it. So anyway, with that, we'll dive into today's article. And it's titled, it's from originally from Fortune, but this was from Yahoo Finance. Okay. And it says Gen Zers are flocking to these Midwest housing markets where homes are about 30% cheaper than the coasts. Okay. So, Troy, you might be able to provide some insight on that from being from San Diego. Maybe we'll look at some of the uh, prices in San Diego. Okay, getting into this article, it says younger generations are looking to the Midwest for home ownership because of the region's significantly lower housing costs compared to major coastal cities. Midwest metros have a median home prices well below the national average while also offering a lower cost of living. As a result, some Midwest cities have higher rates of young homeowners. Okay. And just to kind of give you a little bit of insight on that, we'll look at this is from uh, the St. Louis Federal Reserve, and this is the median sales price of homes sold for the United States. So the median, which means half um, are more than that price and half or less. The median for the second quarter of 2025 was $410,800. Okay. And then just kind of compare that to the Midwest, or specifically, we'll look at Douglas and Sarpy County. The median closed sales price, and we'll just go, was $340,000 in Douglas and Sarpy County. So, and that's actually up from last year. Last year it was 322,000, but this year it's 340,000. So we're significantly lower than the national average, and a lot lower than some of the coasts. So we'll jump back into the article here. We'll catch up on a little bit of the chat. Generation Z has taken note of Omaha's affordability. Absolutely. And then, hey, MH08, I'm getting better at that. I know you're from Denver, so I appreciate that. All right. And Troy says, yeah, we're headed that way in October. Can't afford living here, currently in military housing. Well, Troy, thanks for your service, and we're going to welcome you. So that'd be terrific. All right. And Troy, are you looking to purchase when you get to Omaha, or are you going to be with MHO says, I have been practicing. Yes, I always, before the stream, now I got to say MH08 a couple of times. So, all right. Excellent. All right. Okay. And we'll go a little further here. Younger generations are typically associated with wanting to live a big city lifestyle, but the high cost of housing on the coast is driving Gen Z to consider other options. The Midwest is becoming a more attractive place to plant roots, considering housing costs can be at least 30% cheaper than living in major coastal metros like New York City or Los Angeles. In fact, 7 out of 10 most accessible metros for young homeowners are in the Midwest, according to a consumer affairs analysis of the U.S. Bureau of Federal Financial Institutions. Wow, that's a handful. FFIEC data published July 29. The Midwest cities with the highest rates of homeownership under age 35 include Omaha, Nebraska at 18.2%, Grand Rapids, Michigan, 21.1%, Des Moines, Iowa, 19.8%, Wichita, Kansas, 18.4%, Cincinnati, Ohio, 17%, Minneapolis, Minnesota, 16.5%, and Akron, Ohio at 14.2%. All right. And Ben says the only thing you can buy in the 300s in Arizona is a burned out house. Okay. All right. And then Troy says, yeah, we'll rent for a couple of months and look at houses. And that's a great move, Ben, because, or excuse me, Troy, that's a good way to start, because that way you can take your time and kind of learn a little bit about the market and that sort of thing. So, hey, and if you need any help or anything like that, feel free to reach out and that sort of thing. So appreciate that. And then let's see. Clark says, I keep hearing everyone moving to Grand Rapids, Michigan. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's, I know. And he says, a friend of mine is from Grand Rapids. Okay. Excellent. All right. Minneapolis kind of surprised me a little bit, but hey, because that's a pretty big metro. But let's jump back into the article. Minneapolis is also considered one of the most affordable places to live, according to Zillow, along with other Midwest cities like St. Louis, Detroit, Indianapolis, Cleveland, Cincinnati, and Kansas City. All of these cities where half or more of the houses for sale are considered affordable, according to Zillow, meaning housing consumes less than 30% of the typical household budget. All right. MH08 says the weather keeps prices down in the Twin Cities. I can believe that. Yeah. All right. Median home prices in many Midwest cities hover around 200 to 275,000, while the national median has crossed 400,000. Daniel Andrews, a realtor with Realty One Group Next Generation, told Fortune. That price gap can cut monthly housing costs by 30 to 50%, even before factoring in lower property taxes and insurance, she added. Now, here's the deal with insurance and taxes. We all know those are can be pretty steep nowadays. When you're making that move, you want to make sure that you factor that into your the equation and factor it to go up as well. Okay. Um, and another thing that somebody pointed out in one of my comments today that they didn't budget for, and that was just the fact of when you go to the Midwest, lawn maintenance and just, I always talk about maintenance, but just the amount of money that it takes to maintain your lawn and that sort of thing. So let's see, Clark has a question here. What were the home prices in Omaha in 2019 before the pandemic pumped up prices? That's a great question, Clark, and we'll take a look at that here real quick. I'll actually bring up this chart here and we'll go back. Um, okay, this is the median closed sales price in Douglas and Sarpy County, and this is going back 5 years. Um, we'll go back 10 years because that way we're starting to. Okay, if you look at if we go back and look at July of 2019, the median closed sales price in Douglas and Sarpy County was $225,000. Isn't that amazing? Um, yeah, that's and we'll break it down between. This is month to month. We'll smooth out. We'll take 12-month rolling average. That kind of smooths out the seasonality. But going back to uh, let's see, let's find it here. July of 2019, 207,000. So that smooths that line out a little bit. And then we'll break this down between new and existing. Okay. Back in 2019, new construction, $320,000. And then for previous loan, 189,000. So that's crazy, isn't it, in terms of prices? I mean, and you can see where back in 2023, new construction has come down a little bit, but I think that's what that is. I don't necessarily think new construction is necessarily taking a hit. I think what you're seeing is builders adjusting to the market and building a little bit smaller home as well. But yeah, Clark says, wow. Yeah, isn't that amazing? I mean, I've told this story many a times, but I had a young buyer who he was either fresh out of pharmacy school or just starting his career in pharmacy, and he was able to purchase a brand new 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage for just a little over $190,000 back. And this was back in 2018 or 2019. So yeah, that's um, but what we didn't have, Clark, what we have now, we have all these multifamilies going up versus back then, you didn't have multifamily dwellings going up. Nothing to the extent they are now. And that's just showing you where prices are so unaffordable. And then you take a brand new home at $190,000, and then whatever rates were at the time back then, if they were 4%, and you look at then if let's say you refinanced when it got down to 3, I mean, those folks are sitting real good in the current market, but yeah, that's unbelievable. Okay, we'll jump back into the article here. Why Gen Z is moving. During the pandemic, many professionals moved to locations with more appealing weather and amenities while working from home. But now that many workers have been forced back into the office and housing costs have continued to rise, those cities don't always make financial sense for homeowners anymore. Well, and nobody can accuse of moving to Omaha for great weather. That's for sure. Okay. Andrews said she's worked with several Gen Z buyers, especially remote workers and young professionals who are leaving higher cost areas like Florida for more affordable housing. For many, it's not just about cheaper homes, but being able to build wealth earlier without drowning in overhead, Andrew said. She also cited a storage cafe statistic showing Gen Z and millennials made up nearly 30% of all interstate movers, with states like Indiana and Wisconsin seeing some of the biggest gains. A Realtor.com analysis published Tuesday also shows suburban zip codes in the Midwest are heating up in 2025, meaning they're getting attention through a mix of lifestyle appeal, relatively affordability, and strong ties to nearby economic hubs. The Northeast and Midwest dominate, driven by buyers from high cost metros looking for relief without sacrificing access to jobs or amenities. Realtor.com chief economist Daniel Hale said in a statement, many of these neighborhoods offer newer homes than the surrounding areas, highlighting the critical role of new and infill construction in meeting today's buyer demand, even in a tough market. And the market has gotten tougher. Okay. Um, let's see. Clark says, I know he is happy he bought in 2018 and with you right out of school talking about equity. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So, exactly. So, but here's the thing too. Think about it though. Today's prices, we're thinking, wow, they're high, but what are they going to be like 10 years from now? Okay. Um, today's high, and I remember back in 2018, guess what? You know, I've probably told this story several times, but we're always getting new listeners anyway. But um, I had buyers back in 2018, 2019 saying, "Well, is the market going to crash?" And that was during the prices are always high. You know, um, that. But yeah, those folks that I had some buyers at one time back in 2020. Interest rates went up to about 4%. They could have bought a new home at 4%. And then if they decided, well, we're going to rent a year and wait for prices to come down. And that was 2020. And guess what? They're still waiting. Prices went up and interest rates went up right along with it. And guess what? They're still renting. Okay. So, um, in its analysis of interest in areas that offer more space, more access to jobs, and better value, Realtor.com found that 3 of the 10 hottest zip codes are in the Midwest cities of Baldwin, Missouri, Strongsville, Ohio, and Bexley, Ohio. While these cities have higher prices than their respective larger metros, their price points remain moderate on a national scale. Although home prices in the Midwest are rising, the region continues to be the most affordable home buying region in the country, according to Redfin. Take Detroit, which has the lowest median sales price of any major metro at $180,000. Redfin data shows, or Cleveland at about 217,000. Both of these cities' median home prices are roughly half the overall US figure. Okay. Importantly, the cost of living in the Midwest, especially for essentials like groceries, gas, healthcare, is better aligned with local wages, allowing Gen Z buyers to not just get by, but actually get ahead. Andrew said the Midwest is no longer just affordable, it's aspirational for generations, redefining success. All right, that's tonight's article. And what I thought, let's see, I don't know if Troy's still in the. Let's just for fun, let's type in San Diego, California. Okay. And if you had let's say you made $85,000 in San Diego, what would you have to make in Omaha, Nebraska? Oh, let me share this. Make sure I share the right tab. Okay. Um, this is from Wallet. It's a cost of living calculator. Okay. And we're going to compare San Diego to Omaha, Nebraska. Now, here's the deal. I've been out to San Diego. San Diego is beautiful. I mean, the weather is always nice in San Diego. So, um, I was out there in San Diego in Camp Pendleton about 100 pounds ago when I was in the Marine Corps. About 30. It's hard to believe I guess that's going back 25 years ago. But San Diego is truly beautiful. But the amount of money that it takes to live in San Diego versus Omaha, $85,000 pre-tax income to make that to afford the same lifestyle in Omaha, you'd have to make $55,846 and change. Okay. Housing costs in Omaha are 60% lower compared to San Diego. Transportation, 25% lower. Food costs 17% lower. And entertainment, 15% lower. And healthcare costs 15% lower. Okay. Um, let's see. Clark says, are you seeing a lot of people moving from California to Omaha, especially with the weather differences? We're seeing some. I've worked with several clients this year that are moving from California to Omaha, and they some of them actually kind of like the weather, which kind of shocked me. You know, it's kind of cute. They show up. It was. I've told this story too. I tell the same stories. Oh well, that's part of the deal. But they really nice couple, and it was one of those wet snows that's kind of it melts as soon as it hits the pavement, so it's right around 30 degrees, and I just had my hoodie on, and they show up and they were like dressed for the Arctic, and so it wasn't that bad. But let me tell you what, come January, hey, it can get legit cold. I mean, it hurts to breathe sometimes, and when it gets really cold, and we're talking below, yeah, below zero. Okay, hey, Clark, thank you. We love you. All right, thanks. Okay, hey, let's type in Atlanta. Clark is in Atlanta, so let's type in. Let's compare Atlanta to. Let's see here. Let me type that in. Atlanta, Georgia. Okay. Pre-tax income. Oh, look at that. Okay. Atlanta, Georgia, New City, Omaha. Okay. Not too far off. In Omaha, you'll need a household income of $80,000 to maintain. The cost of living is 5% lower. So Clark is not that. What do you think, Clark? Does that sound about right from your standpoint? Okay. Transportation costs 7% lower. Food costs 3% lower. Um, Entertainment 4% lower. Healthcare 18% lower. So we're going to save you a little bit on healthcare. I had the opportunity to talk to somebody about healthcare today about Omaha, a physician that contacted me off of the channel. Really good discussion. Hopefully, I'm trying to get maybe get him as a guest here on the channel. So it'll be exciting. All right, let's see. MOH said spent 2 days in San Diego back in November of '82. It rained hard for 2 straight days. Okay. Well, MH08, that would happen to you. Okay, so I'm sorry to hear that, but I have seen it rain. I mean, when I was in Camp Pendleton, which is just north of San Diego, between Los Angeles and San Diego, we had some pretty hefty rains back then. So let's see here. All right, and then all right. Okay, yep, Atlanta always surprises people that we are higher than we think. Okay. I thought it would be higher than that, Clark. I really did. I thought it'd be higher. That's not too bad. I mean, you're going to have a lot better weather in Atlanta. Um, yeah. So but I bet you when it snows, I mean, it snows like, you know, 2 millimeters, everybody freaks out. Yeah, I'm sure of that. Most people look at the South as cheaper and getting more bang for their buck. Yep, exactly. And let me grab Clark's channel here. Clark has a live stream on Sunday evenings, and if you want to check that out, and I'll give you Clark. Love that avatar, Clark. That's awesome. So if you want to learn more about Atlanta, Clark has a great channel, produces a great live stream. It's a lot of fun, and yeah, he has a lot of great guests and things like that. So give Clark a shout out and give him a little watch time, right? All right, Clark, appreciate it. All right, let's go back to the okay. Let's see. Yes, people go crazy when it rains or snows down here. No one can drive anymore. Yeah, I get that a lot here as well. They will say that um, you know, a lot of the chat going on right now and some of that comment section is that everybody says, hey, you need a jet dash cam because, and the other thing too, zipper merging, I guess, doesn't exist in Omaha. And I didn't think we were that bad of drivers. Now, to some extent, I mean, does everybody have to learn how to drive again when it snows? I say that, and then I'm like, I was actually filming a video where I was driving down Dodge Street in the evening time, and I had my little dash cam camera set up, and and sure enough, I almost got in a wreck, and doing a video. I mean, obviously, it wasn't whole. It was the dash cam camera thing set up there, but oh, you're welcome, Clark. Thanks for always stopping by. I appreciate all the support. Yep. Let's see. A decent Troy says a decent house here would start at in the low 700s, and that probably a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,400 square feet. Omaha is a lot cheaper, but a lot more house for half the price. Exactly. Yep. MH08 says people trying to be polite when they won't zipper merge. Yeah, that could be true. Yeah, that's let's take a look. We'll pull up Zillow here and take a look at let's type in let's see, San Diego. All right, we'll share this and let's take a look and see what we got here in San Diego. Like I said, I'm a little familiar with San Diego. Let's see. For sale. Okay, let's look at price. No, and let's look for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Okay, and then let's look for a house. Okay. And let's see what we got here. Wow, look at this one. This one's right out. This is a showcase. All right, let's take a look at this one. This is $1,495,000. 1.5092 East Mountain View in San Diego. Wow. And that's 1,500 square feet. It's a nice looking place. I don't know if I'm going to pay 1.5 million. Oh, geez. Clark says, wow, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. What about this one here? This one is open Tuesday, 4 to 6. All right. This one, 689,000, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,200 square feet, built in 1987. And then where is this one located? Okay. Okay, that tells me nothing there. Let's zoom out a little bit. Okay, so you're in the middle there. Let's take a look here. All right, go back. And then what are the inside photos? Oh, we can do a 3D tour on this thing. Let's take a look at this. Looks like a fairly nice looking place. Kitchen's pretty small. All right. Let's go back here. Let's look at the description. Looking for space, privacy, and potential. Oh, the word potential means All right. Um, welcome to Encanto starter home with great bones. Okay. Sometimes that's kind of code word for it needs work. Peaceful views and tons of upside. This 3-bedroom sits on a large lot with a room for an ADU, accessory dwelling units. We're actually seeing a little bit of those in Omaha, a pool and or an addition, whatever fits your vision. One of the best surprises is the massive bonus area downstairs, or about 500 square feet of extra space not included in the listed square footage. Use it for storage, a gym, tools, or even a future build out. Okay. Plus a 2-car garage with plenty of parking. Okay. All right. It's been on 5 days on Zillow. Okay. But again, that's $700,000. Okay. Now let's compare that to Omaha. Let's spend 700,000 in Omaha and see what we get. And let's look from $650 to $750. Okay. This one is apply. All right. And we're all in West Omaha here. All right. This is what you're getting for $650. 130 25 Franklin. Okay. Nice looking place. 4-bed, 5-bath, 4,300 finished square feet. Got a pool going on. Look at that. Wow. That's beautiful. Hey, and it's listed by Nebraska Realty too. Cool. Awesome. All right. Excellent. Yeah. That's what you're getting for under 700 in Omaha compared to San Diego. Okay. We got to catch up on the chat here a little bit. Let's see. That's the same size as some apartments down here for 1.4 million. Wow. Yeah. Hey, James Clark is in the house. Hey, James, thanks for stopping by. All right. And let's see. Crew Elite. I was born and raised in West Omaha and just completed a cybersecurity degree. I work full time and make $75,000 as my starting salary. Hoping to buy a house in the next 5 years since I'm living at home. Excellent. Well, hey, that's a great, if you're living at home, save that money. You can bank a lot of money and then max out that 401k if you have that ability too. So save for that retirement. It pays off. All right. And really nice homes for that price. Exactly. All right. Clark says, what are some activities, attractions, areas that Gen Zers could look forward to when moving to Omaha? That's a great question. We have a brand new, it's called the Gene Leahy Mall, and the brand new park downstairs. There's the old market area. And we also have this place called the Blackstone District. So there's a lot more stuff for that age group in terms of that, and I'm trying to think of, obviously I'm not in that age group and I'm not all that cool. So, but I think we have a lot more than what people think. I think when I talk to people, Clark, we both know Christina Smallhorn. She kind of jokes around about Omaha, thinking like there's like 7 people that live here. So, and I keep telling her, hey, we're a sleeper. We got a lot more people than what you think. So, hey, but yeah, I think there's a lot more, and there's a lot of opportunity wise. One thing that we're, Crew Elite, you've talked about with cybersecurity. We just put in a Google data center and a Meta data center and we're kind of being known as the Silicon Prairie. So Sarpy County, which is just south of Douglas County, where the city of Omaha is, has a lot of act a lot of opportunities for that sort of thing. So Crew Elite, you're going to have a lot of opportunities, especially with cybersecurity. All right. Hey, we have Jory. Hello from Lincoln. Well, Jory, thanks for joining the stream. I appreciate that. All right. Hey, and Clark, I appreciate you, buddy. Okay, everybody hit that like button. Oh, yeah, we're got to hit that like button. All right. And Jory says, love your videos on developments in Omaha for fun and explorations. Well, Jory, thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm glad you got some value out of those videos. I just did a video on some of the new things that are happening within the city, and it really got some good response from that video. I'll share that video here. Let's see. Let's see this. Share this screen, share this tab. This one, it's in the home page. Omaha's next new and everything new and coming soon in Omaha in 2025. We're actually in the process of building a skyscraper, believe it or not. So Mutual of Omaha, and we got a streetcar coming in. So there's a lot of, um, some of the folks, sometimes Omaha folks are kind of get set in our ways a little bit. So there's a little bit of pushback with the streetcar. But I think overall, I think it'll be I'm hoping it'll be a positive thing. But some people in my comment section are not fans of the streetcar and that sort of thing. But I think what we're trying to do is appeal to those Gen Zers, because for a while we had what they called brain drain, where they'd come to Nebraska for a great education and then they would leave and go somewhere else. So, all right. MH08 says, I've been to the old market as well as Blackstone. Yeah. Blackstone is even, this year, Blackstone is making significant changes just with the streetcar being built in there. And then they're also put in some apartments and some parking as well. But there's a lot of activity going on in that. It's fun to watch. It's fun to see the amount of activity going on. All right. And then the AAA baseball club, we have the Omaha Storm Chasers, and then we're a great big volleyball. We have the Omaha Supernovas, professional volleyball, and we're on the University of Nebraska at Lincoln. I mean, now we're a volleyball school. Then we do really well with volleyball. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on there. But in Warner Park down in Sarpy County is home to the Storm Chasers, and then we also have the Omaha Union professional soccer. And I've never been to one of their games, but I'm going to check it out and get some B-roll for the channel and everything. And then the other thing we have going on is the Omaha Beef. I went and got some B-roll for that too. So that's arena football, and it's kind of fun. Different rules, I'm telling you. Clark says, yep. And then let's see. Crew Elite said, crazy to see the influx of these major companies. Hope it plays out well. I think it will. I mean, I'm working with, I had someone last month who came in with Google. And so, yeah, I think it's going to work out. I think and those are well-paying jobs. So I think it's, let's see. Google receipt to me. Okay. And then let's see. And I love getting out of Lincoln with my son to visit Omaha. Excellent. All right. Terrific. Yeah. And then let's see. BRT is a better idea. I don't know what that BRT is, but let's see. Clark has another question. Do y'all have a good night scene? Because some young people like to party, and that's true. I think we have a lot of bars and breweries and that sort of thing. So I think, in terms of the old market, I don't think, you know, I was never a big partier and that sort of thing. But I mean, for what I think it is, I think it's okay. I mean, um, I don't know in the chat. What do you guys think? I mean, you help me out with that in terms of what do you think our nightlife scene is like? I think it's, I think it's all right. You know, let's see. Fed is likely to cut rates next month by at least 25 basis points. Okay. And speaking of interest rates, let's take a look at that. Let's see. I'll share this right here. So that, of course, last week we had a bad jobs numbers report. So when bad economic news comes out, that means investors flee assets such as stocks and go into bonds. And so when demand for bonds go up, the yield actually goes down. And the 30-year fixed mortgage interest rate is tied to the 10-year treasury. So that means treasury bonds go down, and that means mortgage interest rates go down. So I think that's already factored into, and a big part of the 10-year treasury is influenced by Fed policy. So I think that's kind of factored in. So I think that's the rates have already factored that in. That's just my take on it and what I gather from Housing Wire. But yeah, rates going down will it's good for stimulating the economy. And Jory says might help people looking for homes. Exactly. I mean, what we are seeing right now is if you are a buyer, a couple of good things. You have more inventory. I got my market video right now being updated. So I just did my market report video. And so there are a lot more choices and a lot of nice thing now in today's market, as opposed to the pandemic market, buyers can do the inspections and buyers are able to negotiate a little bit. Now, when I say negotiate, does that mean you're going to be able to get 20% off the list price? No, but you're going to get, if it's priced right, you might be able to get a little bit off of that purchase price. But we're back to what they call a normal market. The past 4 years, when things sell for $40,000 over list price and there's 25 offers, and the only people buying it are cash buyers that are able to just throw money at the seller. That is not a normal market. So what we're seeing now is more an adjustment to a normal market. And I can show you that as well. Okay. If we look at, okay, I'll share this tab with you. Okay. This is the green, we have new construction. And in the red, we have existing. Okay. And you can see in 2023, homes sold within 101% of list price. So a little bit over list price. And this is the average. And then 2024, now you're starting to see a little bit of coming off the list price there, 99.9, not a lot, but now what you're seeing is 99.1. So, let's say you got a $400,000 house out there, that might be 396 or 397. You're not going to get a whole lot off, but at least you're getting a little bit. But again, if you're a seller and you overprice it, you are seeing some sellers have to come back to reality and adjust their price. But this is the July average percent of last list price, broken down by new construction and previously owned. And you can see where buyers have a little bit of negotiation right there. So I think that's a good thing for buyers. Now, of course, prices are up interest rates are still at 6.5%. And 6.5% is not, compared to what we had 4 years ago, those are sky high. But you look at the overall um, scheme of things, 6.5% is not. I remember right after 2008 when rates went into the fives, people were like, wow, that is cheap money. And then we were spoiled for so long with cheap money that people just got so used to it. Then when it got into 3 and 2%, I mean, that's just, you know, unbelievable, but again, you still got to be able to afford the house. Okay. MH08 says, I remember when they were the Royals. Yep, they were the Royals. And now they're the Storm Chasers. And they used to be down at Rosenblatt Stadium downtown near the zoo. And then they went out to Warner Park. And really nice stadium out there at Warner Park. That's a fun stadium. And they made it a little bit smaller and a little bit more fan friendly and things like that. And then they have the TD is it TD Ameritrade Park, or is it? Oh, it's the Chuck. All of our stadiums and stuff get renamed every couple of years or whatnot, but now they call it the Charles Schwab, the Chuck Stadium downtown for the College World Series. So, and that's a great stadium too. So, but there was a lot of pushback. People didn't like that when they moved downtown. There were always the holdouts that I was kind of one of them. And I liked Rosenblatt Stadium just because, the sentimentality of it and everything. But the Chuck is a better stadium. It's a much better stadium. But yeah, no, that's cool. And then Clark says, with so many people coming to Omaha, do you see a lot of job opportunities? Great question. And yes, we do have a lot of. I think we have a lot of job opportunities. We have a very low unemployment rate. I can bring that up as well. Let's see here. Yeah, this make this so a little bit easier to see maybe. I don't know if you guys can see that very well. The unemployment rate, this is the Omaha Area Economic Summary, and this is from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. Unemployment rate in the United States in 2024 was 4.3%, and then it went up to 4.4%. And now in Omaha, we're lower than that, 3.3%, and now we're at 3.4%. Douglas and Sarpy County. Douglas County's unemployment is a little bit higher at 3.5%. Sarpy County was at 3.1%. There was a time during the pandemic where our unemployment rate was at 1.9% in Nebraska. So if you didn't want a job, it was, okay, let's see. And then, BRT, bus rapid transit. And we have a thing called Orbit, which is Omaha Rapid Bus Orbit, Omaha Rapid Bus Transit. It's a bus that runs back and forth on Dodge Street. So we're going to have the Orbit system. And then I think they just rolled out a new program to where there's this new sort of car, and I got to read up on it, but one of the drawbacks of Omaha is our public transportation. It's something that they're working on, but it needs room. There's plenty of room for improvement. There's some sort of new shuttle system that's supposed to shuttle people from different parts of the city into where they can get on a bus line. So I think the city is making an effort, as far as that goes. So, yeah. All right. And then, we talked about that one. Let's see, check it. All right, Jory says, yeah, lots of nice life and live music. Yeah, there's a new thing downtown called the Steel House, and that's a new music venue. Omaha's a lot more artsy than what people think. We got lots of art galleries, and there's a lot of wealthy people, obviously, in Omaha, and they can fund all of that stuff. And so, yeah, there's more um, nightlife and thanks, Jory. I appreciate that. All right. Oh, MH08 says Farnham Street. Yeah, Farnham Street is a lot of fun. Farnham Street, if you're not familiar with Farnham Street, it's in the morning, it's one way going eastbound, and then during the day, it's both ways, and it goes both east and west. And then after 5 or after 4, between 4 and 6, I'm not exactly sure. Um, Farnham Street is westbound one way. And Farnham Street is actually the street that Warren Buffett lives on. He lives on Farnham Street. And when you drive by his house, it's like Fort Knox in terms of all the cameras and everything. So, but yeah, Farnham Street is kind of crazy. Exactly. And then Clark says, thanks, Jory. Yep. That's a great point too. MH08 casinos in Council Bluffs as well. So, yeah, there's yep. So cool. And then Jory says, makes sense, David. Thank you for sharing. You're welcome. Yep. And then let's see. James says, with all this new construction going on, who has the money? So do you think that, okay, with all the new construction going on, who has the money? Do you think new construction will be going for less than what they ask for this year? That's a great question, James. Here's kind of my thoughts on process on this. And obviously, I'm not a builder, but and every market's going to be different. Okay. In the Omaha market, I think what you're going to see is builders are only building for one reason, and that is to make money. So if the market starts to cool off, what you will see is builders pull back on construction. And you're seeing some of that already. Okay. And then I also think what you'll see is builders will adjust to the market. So I think what you're going to see is builders will build a little bit smaller home and not as much. So I think if you're building, some of the big luxury stuff, I think you're going to see less of that. And then I think you're going to see builders, the volume builders. I think DR Horton is doing this, and they're starting to build a split entry in the Omaha market. So that's going to be a little bit less in price and things like that. So I don't see new construction taking a hit like that. I mean, builders want to make money, and builders are good at making money. Part of the problem what we had in the last decade is I think builders were a little bit gun shy about building too much, and like we did like in 2008, where now, hey, we're sitting on homes that won't sell. So I think builders are a little bit more cautious about that. But again, James, who has that kind of money? The single person, in order to buy in today's market, it's the days of, there are some single buyers out there, but most buyers has to be a dual income in order to purchase. But uh, that, you know, like the gentleman I was talking about earlier, where the young guy that was 23, single guy, be able to buy a brand new 3-bedroom, 2-bath for 190 with a 4% interest rate. Those days are gone, and I don't see those ever coming back. So, uh, yeah, but that's kind of my take on it, James. But that doesn't mean in other markets you can see things, people a little bit over their skis as far as that goes. So, time will tell, and we'll see how that goes. But I don't see. I could see new construction going down, but I think it would be a function of building a smaller, a house with a smaller footprint. Okay, that's kind of my take on it. But here's the deal. That's my crystal ball. My crystal ball is just as clear as yours. So time will tell. Tune in because we'll find out. All right. Thanks for the question. Yeah, my lender said they typically forecast to see what may happen in bake the rates in. Yep, exactly. Okay, cool. All right, Troy says, are more sellers paying the buyer's agent fees lately? Great question. Okay. And for those that aren't aware, uh, last year, August 17th, actually, so we're coming up on 1 year, the National Association of Rules, the National Association of Rules, Realtors established a rule to where before you can view a property as a buyer, you have to contract with an agent. Okay. And you'd have to specify the length of the contract and the compensation. Now, here's the deal: compensation is negotiable. There's no such thing as a standard commission. But what you see, Troy, in most sellers, especially in a market where the market is getting tougher, most sellers are more than willing to compensate a buyer's agent. Okay. And the way that works, okay, every market's going to be different. And again, commission is going to be um, negotiable. But what would happen, Troy, in the purchase agreement, you would ask the seller to pay the buyer's agent's commission. Okay. And there hasn't been a lot of pushback in that, because here's the thing: sellers want to sell the property. So most sellers are willing to compensate the buyer's agent commission. So you know, um, when all this went down last year, people didn't know how this was all going to shake out, but surprisingly, it's been well received. It's nice. Um, I don't have any. A lot of my clients are YouTube clients, so they're familiar with my videos, but I haven't had you know too many buyers push back on that. I did have one buyer push back on it, and I'm like, well, I can't show you the house, and it's like, well, you know, um, and that was we didn't go look at the house, and that was cool by me. So hey, I sold that house to someone else, and they're very happy that it happened. So they were more than willing to contract with me. So, but good question on that, Troy. So yeah. Um, Now, is there always going to be, you know, and think about it. We've had sellers that didn't want to pay a buyer's agent. They were called for sale by owners, and they've been around since the dawn of time. And most for sale by owners, if they want to sell the property, if you approach that for sale by owner, a lot of them are still willing to pay a buyer's agent. So, um, yeah, so that's kind of my take on that. I don't know what you see in your market, Clark, if you see anything different with that. Okay. Nice bars and restaurants on Farnham. Yep, that's where the Blackstone district is. Yeah, yeah. I'm talking about Farnham after the where it's one way. It's the the but yeah, there's a lot of nice bars and restaurants, and let's see, Jeremy Larson. Okay, terrific. Well, we have Jeremy. Welcome to the program. Scottsdale, Arizona here. Howdy from the Inferno. Okay, welcome. All right, excellent. All right. Well, thanks for joining us tonight. All right, it's always fun to get some new folks on the chat. Really wish they made 204th Highway 6th Street and Highway 370 like an expressway. Traffic is getting really bad, and you are correct on that. Yeah, I mean, 204th Street, that's the, let's see if I can pull up a map. Let me try to pull up a map here real quick. Show folks that. Sometimes when you pull things up, let's see. Okay. I'll share this. Okay, this is a map of Omaha, but what Crew Elite is talking about is Highway 6 from Elkhorn to Gretna. Highway 6 here, that has just the amount of growth and new subdivisions and development going on around here. It's really taken off, and it really has uh, been busy. And the other uh, highways talking about is 370 from Gretna down to Offutt, and it goes through Papillion, and all of this area down in here is just a ton of development. In fact, Vala's Pumpkin Patch, which is on Highway 370, it used to be way out in the sticks, okay, and now it's almost in a subdivision. Vala's is a really fun place. It's a pumpkin patch, and they really have used to be, went on a hay rack ride and sat around a fire and grabbed a pumpkin. It's now like Disneyland, in terms of what they offer and everything. So it's really, really a good time if you have little kids. It's kind of expensive, but really a good time. It's out there in Gretna, and Gretna put in a new park and things like that. So, but yeah, that's what Crew Elite, um, and they have the Dodge Expressway. The Dodge Street now has an elevated expressway after the West Roads out to 132nd Street. And yeah, that Clark says similar stuff has happened down here with the commissions. Okay, excellent. All right. And then MH08 says, in a for sale by owner scenario, who has the greatest risk, buyer or seller? Um, I think a seller in a for sale by owner situation has um, a substantial amount of risk. Number one, if they don't have representation, then they're representing themselves. And then they also have risk in terms of not getting full exposure to the marketplace. So sometimes you'll find some for sale by owners will, in order to save a penny, they spend $1. And during the pandemic, I would tell my buyers, I'm like, hey guys, let's go look at for sale by owners, because a lot of those for sale by owners will still cooperate with a buyer's agent, and we won't be competing with as many offers. Okay, so I think there's risk for sale by owners, and that I don't know if that answered your question. MHO. I see it's getting toward the end of the stream. I'm having a harder time saying MH08, but I think from a seller standpoint, on a buyer standpoint, if you're buying a for sale by owner and unrepresented from the buyer side, that presents a whole bunch of challenges too, because a lot of times you're not aware of what you don't even know. So I don't know if that answers your question, MH08, but let's see here. One block west of 203rd Street. Okay. Let's see. Crew Elite says, remember the roads in that area were gravel, especially after 180th and Harrison. Yeah. I mean, where Giles Point is now, that used to be all farm ground and gravel roads, and now it's all development. So yeah, that's crazy. Okay. Yeah, it's amazing to see the amount of growth and development. So, and then all right, let's see. Just a reminder, I gotta put the old subscribe to the channel and then if you ever need any assistance or anything, feel free to reach out, either call or text. If you have any question or anything, even if you're not moving right away, um, and in my email address. I've had some really great folks reaching out lately, so it's been fun. All right. And then MOH said, "Yep, it did." Okay. LOL. Some of the jokes age fast in these chats. I might need a producer where I could have someone else bringing up the things, but it's anything else I can. Let's see here, crew. I'll be reaching out once I'm more ready to push the purchase a home, and don't feel afraid to reach out earlier than that as well. So sometimes it doesn't hurt to, you reach out whenever you want. Obviously, I'm here for you. But if you have questions about anything or just want to familiarize yourself with the market, let me know. All right. Hey, Todd Snover, 1995, was living in Lincoln, commuting to Bob Boozer and Center. Only one stop in Gretna and one stoplight on West Center. Yeah, West Center. That's West Center. I knew what he meant there. Todd, that is somebody I know from way back in the day, the old Ameritrade days. So I hope that's everything is going well for you, Todd. So thanks for being on the stream tonight. That's great. So awesome. I used to work back in the day. I used to work at Ameritrade before it was Charles Schwab. Um, and before it was TD Ameritrade, it was just Ameritrade. So I worked at Ameritrade. It was a great, great company. I was glad I left though. Nothing, no shade against Ameritrade, but uh, that the good days at Ameritrade. I worked from 5 a.m. to 1. That was my shift. So it was great company. I remember we had donut day, and that was always good times. All right, and Crew Elite says sounds good. All right, terrific. Well, hey, if any other questions anybody else has in the chat tonight, or any other questions I have for anybody has for me, just feel free to let me know. And then let's see. Glad to see you're doing well. Yep. Glad we left when we did. Yes. Yep. That was yeah. Ameritrade was yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. Yeah, that was you learned a lot though. You learned a lot. So all right. Well, thank you everybody. And Clark says good show tonight. Thank you, Clark. I always appreciate you're in the chat. You got the wrench, so you're a moderator. He's one of my moderators, so I really appreciate that. But appreciate everybody stopping by. I'm glad like some good news out there in the housing. Everybody, there's a negative bias um, in YouTube where negativity sells, and there's always opportunity out there. And yeah, is it tougher? Yeah, it is, but there's always opportunity out there. But I appreciate everybody stopping by tonight, and uh, appreciate you stopping on the streams. These are fun. So, but anyway. Appreciate everybody, and you guys have a great evening. Take it easy, and we'll see you next week. Bye bye.